Welcome to the Imperfect Dads Podcast. This is your host, Devon. We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids, but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like. Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood and how they feel like they're holding it together or how they're not. Thank you for joining us for this episode. This podcast is part of the Never a Face Network. Make sure to follow them on Instagram or go to the website neverafacenetwork.com. On this episode, we have on Cameron Conrad, also known as Your Elder Emo Mom. Cameron and I are both part of the Never a Face Network, where people talk about music, nostalgia, concerts, and keeping up with all the emo pop-punk music scene of the past and current. Cameron wanted to do an episode to discuss her life as a mom with 2 daughters, but also talk about growing up with a dad in recovery and how that shaped her life. I've talked to lots of dads about getting sober and being sober, but never to someone who is a child and watched their dad go through that process. The hope of that part of this conversation is to remind you, if you're in recovery, how much it can change your family and your family inertia. And a lot of dads on here talk about legacy and wanting to leave a good legacy. If you can figure out how to get sober and stay sober, it really does change everything for your family line. Besides that, we talked about how her daughters are doing dance, how different their personalities are, still going to shows when you have kids, loving the school her kids go to, and how she started doing content on TikTok and Instagram. Just like one more thing.
Dad, just start the episode.
Oh, my bad. Hey, so I always have this problem or issue, mental thing in my head. When I have a mom on the podcast, like it's the imperfect dad. So like, should I create a graphic in which I change it to imperfect parents, imperfect dad plus mom? But that would imply that you and I are mom and dad together. And that's not the story here. So, hey, Cameron, welcome to a parenting podcast about imperfections.
Yeah.
So I will give a preface for the episode, just so if you're listening to it, because in the show notes, I'll put the purpose of the episode, but we're not going to start with the purpose of the episode. Who messaged me to say like, hey, I know you've talked to a lot of dads about going through recovery and getting sober. My dad did that. Would you ever want to talk to a child of someone who did that? And I was like, heck yeah, let's do that. But let's learn about your life first. So, hey, Cameron, tell me like kids, ages, all that good stuff.
Hi, Devon. Yeah, I have 2 little girls. They are 4 and 7. And they could not be more different as 2 humans on the planet, which is an interesting challenge, but it's fun. I love it.
So I have 2 daughters also and a son. And my daughters are 10 and 8. So they're like 23 months apart. And like, their personality difference is like fascinating. What have you noticed is different between your daughters so far?
So my oldest, and this has been true like since they were born.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest is like super analytical and like really thoughtful and observant. Like you can just see her eyes. She's always watching everything. And she's like, she lives for a routine. This child wants to know what to expect every moment of the day, which was really good for me as a new mom because prior to her being born, I was not an organized person at all. I was a chaotic mess. And I had to learn how to be organized for her, which helped me a lot to survive parenthood, but then also just kind of generally in like successful adult life. It's been a useful skill.
Yep.
But then my youngest finds routines to be hilarious. She has no interest in having an expectation to be met. And if you try to tell her what we're going to do, she's just going to choose to do something different. She knows no limits. She does not think before she acts ever. She's properly unhinged is my favorite way to describe her.
Yeah. Which one is more like your personality? So you and your natural state, probably a little messy, but you've learned to be more organized. So which kid do you find yourself not siding with, but like being like their natural characteristics more like?
Interestingly, I think still my oldest, because I tend to be very analytical and pretty careful. Organized, not so much. But my youngest, the way she just like moves through the world without a care still astounds me. I don't understand how she operates that way. It's incredible.
Yeah. That's so funny because like my oldest is like that also, where she'll like sit there, like she's fine to sit on the sidelines and observe everything and then step in to do something. And middle child is much more like makes new friends at every playground she goes to, but doesn't learn anyone's name, like very big personality and all that. It's always funny to me whenever like that pattern still exists is, I find myself more analytical. I'm more like someone who sits on the sidelines and feels out the vibe of the group before I start talking. So I feel like I relate to my older kid but also know my middle child's probably watched me talk to strangers because I talk to anyone that's near me. So that's probably, it's fascinating to be like, where did you learn this? What, did I teach you this? Because that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So I have to make you talk about Disney a little bit. What makes you love Disney so much? Did you choose the Disney life, or like, was it, I mean, like, you've got two daughters, so I get it, but like, were you already a Disney fan before having
Yeah,
daughters?
funny enough, I found this to be a recurring pattern in my life. I didn't realize I was a Disney adult
Mm-hmm.
or like a Disney fan until it started to become a thing that I could observe in other people. So
Yeah.
the first CD I had in my first car was called Disney Hero Songs. And it was like all of the hero songs from all of the like these
Yeah.
Renaissance movies.
Yep.
And I was obsessed and I knew every single
Mhm.
word to every single song. It never registered to me that that was like a thing, like that there was something unique about being into Disney. And then I went to Disney World once as an adult without kids.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown. I've kind of been just like full on hooked ever since.
Yeah. What's your, okay, so I love Pixar more than I love Disney. Like whenever I think of stuff my kids watch,
Mhm.
whenever a new Pixar thing comes out, I'm very excited about it. And like, we're going to go see this in theaters. Do you have a preference of like the more Disney versus more Pixar films?
Generally, I lean hard into Disney animation.
Okay.
But my favorite movie of like recent decades is Monsters University.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't top it.
Now, listen, I'm not going to argue this with you because I know you probably already have like a 5-point essay of like
Wait,
why.
no. I have
No,
to.
I love Monsters University also. I think it's great. It's just that like as a sad person, like I Inside Out 1 and 2, I mean, Encanto makes me weep like every time I watch it. I think the whole concept of like the end of that movie being that like she's felt isolated from her family, and at the end she finally feels welcomed by her family and understands her role. It's such like a relatable, like finding a purpose in family is such a common story. They illustrated it perfectly, but everyone also working towards their own gifts. So as someone who is looking for depth in every small detail of life, that's what's wrong with me. So that's all. That's the side tangent. That's the side tangent for that. So
It's fair.
yeah. When did you start accepting like your love of emo pop punk music is like a big part of your personality? When did that start to become a thing for you?
So interestingly, same pattern.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was very into sort of the emo pop punk scene, but I was, I guess, afraid of like having my own opinion. So I didn't seek out any music on my own. I just kind of listened to whatever was put in front of me that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And I did sort of dress the part. Even though my hair is dark brown, I had it box dyed black for all of high school,
Yeah.
pin straight hair, spikes and jeans and black wife beaters, like the whole
dude.
shebang.
Yeah.
Didn't recognize that that was like an identity until I sort of fell out of it coming into adulthood. And then really just about a year ago,
Really?
kind of came back into it and started allowing myself to like do the things that felt good. And I was like, oh, okay, actually, this is like part of who I am. And this is like part of my identity. So that's been really fun to experience and kind of grow into.
Yeah. Well, I think it also helps that like in the past couple of years, like all those albums are like 20 or 25 years old.
Yeah.
So like all these bands are like, hey, we're going to go play this album from start to finish. So then you end up in a room full of people who are also were in the same spot of like stepped away from the music and now coming back to it. And they're like, hey, did this mean a lot to you? And everyone's like, oh yeah, this meant everything to me. And so it's like reconnecting with that younger version of yourself. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Which concert of like, I'm assuming you've gone to some of those type of shows where it's like 20, 25 years since the album came out. Have you gone to many shows like that?
You know, not specifically.
Okay.
Not that we're like, targeted around celebrating an anniversary.
Yeah.
Certainly I've seen a lot of my favorite bands from back then. I've seen Newfound Glory a couple of times, Simple Plan, Blank Alkaline Trio.
Yeah.
And that always feels really good. Particularly, they say like your 30s is like being a teenager, but with grown-up money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so great to be able to go and like get the pit passes and buy the merch and like really have the whole experience. That's very gratifying.
It is. Well, yeah, because like whenever you're like a teenager, it was like, I remember going to Best Buy and hoping that like a CD would be like $10 and like not knowing how I could afford a $10 CD. And now almost 40 buying like $30 vinyls. Like, yeah, this is fine. This is normal. And I'm like, 18-year-old me would have not been able to afford any of this stuff at all.
No.
Yeah. I can't really do concert merch though, because I am so tall that like I wear it once and I wash and it shrinks. And then I'm just annoyed that I'm such a tall person, you know?
The one disadvantage that you have,
One,
you
yeah,
can't rock the concert merch.
exactly. No. Unless it's a hoodie, but those hoodies are always like $60. And like, that's too much in my mind.
They are. Oh, they're worth it though. I've got a couple of Alkaline Trio hoodies in particular that are just like so well made. I live in them. They're the best.
It's good to be cozy, you know? Let's just say
Yes.
it. Coziness is kind of the goal of everyday life.
Elite for sure.
It is. What phase of life are your daughters in? I know you've told me before that like they do dance stuff or like dance is a part of their life. How's that going?
Really good. So we just had a recital this past weekend.
Yeah.
For my 4-year-old, it was her first time on stage ever. It was super exciting. I was a little worried that she might like get the stage fright thing.
Yeah.
Or she can be very clingy to me. So I was afraid she wasn't going to let me like walk away and watch. But she did such a good job. She was like grinning. Her face was just one giant smile the whole time she was on stage. It was so precious. So that was really special. And then for my oldest, this was her first time having more than one dance in a show. So she had like a costume change.
Cool.
And then she had to like stay for the final curtain call. So it was like a big thing for her. It was a little more draining on her. And actually, 2 of her teachers were graduating seniors. She didn't realize that until after the last show. And they like came and gave their final hugs goodbye. And then she was like a weepy mess for the rest of the day, which was really sad. But they're really loving it. And we found a really nice studio that feels very like supportive and positive. It's not super competitive. There's no like pressure to like look a certain way or be a certain way. So I feel really good about where we are. I've just loved watching them kind of go through the experiences. It's really special.
That's so awesome. And like finding a dance studio where you vibe with them is so like crucial and so important. I'm so glad because like, yeah, you don't want to cause like lifelong trauma because you sent them to a dance studio where they were very big perfectionists just because you wanted your kid to do dance.
Yeah, no, actually, I grew up training pre-professional ballet, and the studio where I trained is actually the State Ballet of Virginia. They're currently facing like 3 lawsuits from people in like my class from like social and physical abuse. So I've always known I wasn't going to put them there.
Yeah.
And then competitive dance is really popular, but that freaks me out. I don't understand like pitting kids against each other. It weirds me out. So I'm really happy we found the place that we found. None of that.
I understand. Well, like, so having 3 kids, like everything is about how do we do this together? Like whenever I'm at home with 3 kids during the summer, it's like, how do we do this together? How do we work to our strengths? So like, yeah, being in a hyper competitive, like go be better than that kid is like all of my worst instincts. I know how to try to be better than people. I know how to be elitist as hell. And I'm like, I don't want to live in this mental space because I'm not a good person whenever I'm here. So I don't want to do that to my kids either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a tricky thing to figure out, like how to push them and put them into things that help them grow, but without like pushing them over the edge.
Correct. And I'm sure you've dealt with this also is like, I don't want to make this your entire identity because at some point in time, you won't be able to live up to the standard that you think you should be at. And then you're going to have an identity crisis. So how do I make you take this seriously with the full knowledge that you are also much more than this, but also take it seriously is like freaking hard.
Yes. Near impossible. We'll figure it out.
Because it is. That's cool. So my oldest daughter, whenever she tries to do anything with performance, gets inside her own head constantly because she has some very perfectionist tendencies. Does your eldest daughter do that also?
She does. She's kind of gotten out of it a little bit this year. Because the other thing that's really nice about our studio is it is attached to a like small local professional company.
Cool.
So the kids that are in the like formal training program get to do the professional ballets. So she did the Nutcracker, and then she did their spring ballet was the Wizard of Oz. So she's actually had 3 shows this year.
Cool.
And I think the frequency has helped. Like she's getting more comfortable. She didn't really have any nerves at all this time, which was the first time I've seen that.
That's awesome.
That was really cool. Yeah.
It's really cool. It's so cool when you can put your kid into something and like actually watch their growth, watch them have like not a breakdown, but be really nervous about something and then like familiarize it in which they know that they can handle it and do it is like makes you feel like you've done something right as a parent, which is always nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. That's actually, and I meant to mention this too. I almost think this could be its own episode.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason my kids are in the particular school that they're at. We go to an Acton Academy affiliate school. which leans really hard into allowing kids to try and fail and like learn through failure. So it's a very like hands-off approach. And that is a game changer because once you learn to put your kids in a situation and like trust them to figure it out and then just kind of be there to help them if they need support afterwards, it's amazing. It's so cool to watch. I love it.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Because I think as a parent or as a family unit, my hope is to create an environment where they can explore and like see how they naturally are in a situation and then know what their safety net is. And it's very easy to get focused on like, I don't know, something as dumb as like, how many people do you know? Because I know a lot where like they still have the trauma of loading the dishwasher and their parents screaming at them for loading the dishwasher. And it's like, hey, just ask your kid. I just spend so much time explaining stuff to my kids. Like, oh, how do you naturally do this? Okay, cool. Hey, when you do it like this, here's another angle. Think about it. Here's another angle. Think about it. The way you did it. Let's see what happens when we do that. And then we know what potentially could happen next. As opposed to, you're just wrong. And why don't you trust your instincts? It's like, you just told me all my instincts are wrong constantly.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I didn't know schools like existed like that, where it's more like, hey, let's figure out where your natural instinct is and like this problem solve with it. Let's work through it together.
It's really incredible. I could talk about it for hours, so I won't go on too long, but it's a really cool model. They lean into like Socratic learning. So they're always telling kids to ask questions and inquire. And the kids are kind of encouraged to support each other and also to hold each other accountable.
That's so
I'm
cool.
obsessed.
I'm
obsessed.
Like, no, genuinely. Like, it's because to me, like, what's really fascinating and like the tension that exists with the parent is I think, you've done it successfully is if your kids don't really need you whenever they're an adult. It means you've set them up to know how to handle the world, how to process the world, and not like be completely overwhelmed by the world. Is like what my definition of like, have I been successful as a parent? If my kids can do that in their 20s and 30s, then I feel like, oh, I must have helped you regulate your nervous system, helped you figure out how to like work systems, how to process stuff in a way in which you've got this no matter what you face. Is like, that would make me feel like I've done something right.
Yeah, that's the goal. And it is, I also think just from like a day-to-day parenting perspective, it's really nice to take that approach where like you're not responsible for teaching them how to execute perfectly. So that like if they have a failure, it's not like you're not a failure as a parent. You're just giving them the room to learn for themselves. Then you don't have to be so deeply involved in every single thing that they do. And you can kind of be your own independent person and have your own reasonable expectations for yourself. I think it makes for a much healthier and like more comfortable parenting experience, which is great.
Well, because there might be like a moment where like I remember in college, I didn't take a class or two seriously. And I got an F on a test or two. And my parents were just like, cool. So we'll like go talk to the professor. Like, we're not fixing this for you. I'm like,
figure it out.
Why would I expect you to? But like that then taught me like, hey man, whenever you take a step that was a misstep, there are actually steps you can do to get back on the right path. And that is like, I don't know. It's very easy to do something quote unquote wrong and then think that your misstep is your whole identity. And it's like, oh no, that's just, you just had a bad day. So like, hey, you can figure this out. You can always get back in. Yeah, you can always figure it out. So you got this.
Yeah. I know adults who still haven't learned that lesson.
Yep. It's, I don't know. I could talk for hours about identity and being in tune with your identity and how much that affects your day-to-day choices and decisions and just being aware of what validation you hope for in every room you walk into. So, Yep. Okay. Before we talk about like fun stuff like addiction and stuff. Hey, so I know you exist because we're both part of the Never Phase network and everything. So how'd you even start like an account for like talking about emo music and going to concerts and stuff? Tell me that lore and then we'll talk into more serious stuff.
So that is kind of a fun story. I actually started because my day job had gotten kind of slow and boring. I'd been used to working in a really like fast-paced environment, and then everything just kind of like slowed down to where I really didn't have any like deadlines or any kind of pressure, and I was bored out of my mind. So I was looking for a side gig, and I decided initially that I was going to be a Disney travel agent. So I went and I got my travel agent certification and started posting Disney TikToks to try and like, do the thing. I learned pretty quickly that I am a terrible salesperson. I never successfully sold to anyone other than myself. I did earn one commission from myself, which was great.
Fantastic. Well done.
Yeah. I feel very accomplished. But I also found that like making the Disney content, even though it was something I loved, felt really like laborious. And I was having a hard time like keeping up with it. So then I was just sort of like scrolling casually through TikTok. I had never used TikTok before.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like 37 before I got my account.
Same.
Amazing. And I started to just like come across people who were like doing lip syncing videos to
Mhm.
these songs that I loved when I was a kid. And I was like, this is cool. And so I kind of got more and more into it. My algorithm ended up,
Mhm.
being flooded. Came across people like Rob LaFoon
Yeah.
and Sweemo and CZB. And I was like, okay, this is fun. So I decided to kind of play around with it. Honestly, it was just like a break
Mhm.
from making the Disney content. And gradually it became something that I like really wanted to do. And I had this moment where I realized like, this is supposed to be fun. If the Disney stuff feels painful,
Mhm.
but the music stuff feels effortless, like
Yeah.
maybe that's where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, of course.
And so I kind of followed that, started to lean into it. And then right around that time was actually when NapNet came together. And I
Mhm.
kind of watched it happen because I was connected with some of them independently. And I reached out to Rob and I was like, hey, you guys are doing something really cool.
Mhm.
Do you need another teammate?
Yeah.
And they let me guest contribute for a while and then invited me on. And it's been such an incredible experience. I've made some very cool friends
Mhm.
and met some really cool bands. And now what I do mostly is get to know like emerging artists who are coming up in the scene. And that's been really special because I get to actually get to know them and build relationships. And it's people who are like so passionate about what they do.
Mhm.
It's the most fun I think I've ever had, honestly.
That's so cool. And like, yeah, I feel like if I don't know, so much of life is already doing stuff that kind of takes energy and doesn't always give you energy back. So
Hmm.
if you're able to acknowledge that of like, oh, this Disney stuff, while I love it, it's part of me, it drains me every time I deal with this. Versus like, yeah, discovering new music is always exciting. Discovering new music is always like interesting and like, yeah, can give so much energy. So like, yeah, if people are like, hey, I want to talk to you about the new music I make, it's like, oh, cool. I love discussing this. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
please, please, absolutely. I'll spend an hour talking to you about the single that you
Yeah,
made.
yeah.
And yeah, it's so fun.
Nice. That's so cool. What do you feel like from doing it? Like, what's like the most fun about it? Is it just talking to new artists, talking to new musicians, or like, how do you feel about the community that's being built by you posting stuff about it?
It's incredible. I think really like all of it, whether it's
Hmm.
participating in NapNet or the broader sort of like NapNet fan community that we're building, the artists, the folks that are following me, it's all about relationships
Yeah.
and sort of like so many of us are coming back to this sort of identity that,
Yeah.
that we found as kids, and we're all leaning into authenticity, which I think
Hmm.
is something that the world is really craving right now. And it just feels really good to be surrounded in a virtual sense
Hmm.
with people who are just seeking the same kind of joy through authenticity and friendship and like honesty. I, it's the people, really.
Cool.
All the people,
Yep.
all of them.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think there's like this thing about like with music that you listen to back then, especially for that scene where like, yeah, in Southern Indiana, like I was usually the one telling people to listen to the music like and all that. So like when you find someone who actually knows like the same band as you, like if find someone
Yeah.
who like has listened to any Saddle Creek, Omaha based band, I'm like, cool. So we are now best friends. You don't know it yet. And I'm going to try to not come on too intensely, but you said you kind of like this band and I know way too much about this band. So this figure out a friendship because it'll be awesome. So that's a great connection point.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Do you still okay? So I feel like you go to shows pretty regularly. Oh, do you like have family in town? Like, does your sister come over and watch the kids while you go to shows? Like, how are you still going to shows when you got two kids?
Yeah, so I am really lucky to have a massive family,
Hmm.
and also a massive sort of chosen family around me. I'm the oldest of five.
Goodness.
My my eldest younger sister Mandy, she's the one who usually tags along with me to
Yeah.
the shows. She has two girls who are about the same age as mine, so often her husband will keep the kids for us, and we go out
Cool.
together.
Nice.
Yeah, otherwise I've got, sisters, sisters-in-law,
Yeah.
friends, they all kind of rotate. And luckily, my kids really like spending time with all of these people, so they never like complain about it, which is really nice because it is kind of a hard balance to strike, like I want to be the parent who's like modeling being a whole human
Hmm.
and sort of like pursuing my own goals and doing things that makes me happy, but I don't want to make my kids sacrifice for that.
Yes.
So it's challenging to figure out. I'm not going to claim that I like execute on it perfectly, but
Yeah.
the goal is to be able to continue to do this in a way that feels fulfilling but
Hmm.
isn't taking away from my time with them.
Yep. Totally get it. Yep. Nope. My wife was out of town this past weekend for like a trip with her sisters, and American football was playing on Friday. And so like, yeah, I had like a neighborhood kid like watch them, basically watch a movie with them and put them to bed. But yeah, there's always that
Yeah.
balance in my head of like, well, like do it this weekend, but like if they like maybe next weekend don't, because you want, yeah, balance. Cause like you want your kids to know like you have your own personality, you have your own life, but also you don't want them to think that your own personality and life is more important than how you feel about them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so difficult.
Mm-hmm. So, nope. And it honestly, I think one thing I always tell parents is like, by the way, it'll change like next time. Like this time it might have gone great. You might have gotten a sitter, you left and everything was great. And the next time you do it, your youngest is clinging you for dear life, screaming, crying that you're leaving. And you're like, cool, I'm a monster. That's how I feel this
Yeah.
time. So you just keep trying and over communicating to your kids is the only thing I know to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That tends to work most of the time. Sometimes I find if I give my kids too much notice, it goes backwards.
Yes.
And then they kind of get in their head about it.
God, yes.
Or they start trying to negotiate with me. They're like, oh, well, if you're doing something you want to do, then I'm only okay with it if you let me do this.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. My kids are very strategic.
I respect that so much so. Like the argumentative aspect of my personality, who's very literal and legalistic, is like respect. Respect. Yeah. Let's negotiate this. Let's do this. Gosh. Yeah. I also have had that moment, especially with my oldest daughter, where it's like, hey, do you want to do a play date with these friends? And we're like, yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. And then like the entire day, it's like, but what time is it at? How many hours is it? And you're just like, I don't know. Like, I can't make time go faster. And they aren't home until 3 p.m. Like, I can't, like, it's like, then I'm like, well, we're going to the library. Cool. How long are we going to spend in the library? Like, however long it takes for you to stop asking me these questions.
Yes. Yeah. I live that all the time. Well, what do you mean? What time? What's it going to be like? Who's going to be there? How long are we going to be there? I've started defaulting to, I understand that that's important information to you, but I don't have an answer for you right now. And you can continue to ask me, but I'm not going to have an answer. It's not going to change.
Correct.
It doesn't always work, but
It doesn't. But also, I have things I get excited about also, where it's like, oh man, I can't wait to go to that show. Well, what's it going to be like? I don't know. I won't know until I get there. It's like, cool. Well, you're not leaving the house until like 7 p.m. Okay, cool. What time is it now? 8 a.m. Okay, cool, man. Go distract yourself. So, yeah, felt understood. Okay, Cameron, now to transition. Yes. I'm a very literal person whenever I do this. Some people have like smooth transitions and segues. I don't. Hey, Cameron, you were raised by a dad who got sober, got in recovery, and did all of that. And you wanted to share your story about that. I'm not sure the best starting point for you, but hey, I know that's a story that you wanted to tell and you want to share that experience, because I have had on a lot of dads who talk about getting sober, but I have never talked to a child who's like, hey, here's what it was like watching my dad get sober, get clean, go to meetings, and have that be normalized in your life. So I'm not sure how you want to start the story, but hey, Cameron, please tell and share your story.
Hey, Devon.
Yes,
thanks.
That's me. Hi.
So, yeah, I think when I was thinking about how to get into this, the most interesting thing to me is to say, I think you had framed it this way, like, I'm a child of an addict, and that is true. But I never knew my dad as an addict. I've always known him my whole life as someone in recovery, which I think is really unique. I've just never known my dad without that as part of his identity. And that comes from the fact that my earliest memories, like pre-kindergarten, are of going to NA and AA meetings with him and just sort of being a part of that world and listening to the conversations and the goings on in that space. And it took me until adulthood to realize that that's a really like unique experience that most people don't have, that I came up understanding the language of recovery and addiction before I could even read. I knew what like it was to be using, to be clean, sober, all of that. It's a very empowering place to come from, I think, because I've never not known what addiction was. I've also never not known that recovery is possible.
Yeah.
So that's the summary.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever read have you read the book like Adult Children of Alcoholics? Have you read that book?
I have not. No.
Okay, I'll send you the link to it later. Yeah, it's just about like because it is a thing of like focusing more on there needs to be community for kids as well who have grown up in that environment and stuff. And like also massive kudos to your dad for it, because I mean if you're the oldest of 5, like to get help to figure out how to get sober. That is not freaking easy. So heck yeah to your dad for figuring that out.
Yeah, he's really incredible. And he's also not shy about talking about it,
Yeah.
which I think um, is one of the most impressive things to me. I have a really distinct memory. I was probably like 13. So initially he came up through the NAAA world, and then he ended up finding stability in the church.
Yeah.
And that's been a really like durable life framework for him. And I have this really like crystallizing moment of seeing him stand up in front of the church and sort of give his testimony for the first time.
Yeah.
It was early teen years. I actually had a friend with me who had come because it was one of these like casual Saturday night churches, and she was kind of curious about it because she went to like a very Orthodox church. And I remember watching him and, from my perspective, just being really like impressed and honestly proud of him for standing up there and talking in front of this massive congregation of people and seeing all the different reactions around like the people we know who we're close with, and seeing like the sort of the joy and the love from them, and the people who didn't know us and maybe could relate to the story. You could see that on their faces. And the people who clearly were still in it and maybe needed to hear the story, and kind of watching it land with them was incredible. But then my friend was sitting beside me, and I remember the look on her face. She was like stunned. She couldn't believe that like her friend's dad was just up here talking about like drinking and using drugs and partying. And I remember looking at her and thinking like, that's a weird reaction. This isn't a big deal. Like, why? You don't know people like this?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, your dad didn't do lines of coke before you were born?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not a normal thing.
You've never heard a conversation like this before? Like, this is my entire life.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time I realized that my experience was different from other people's. But I'm really proud of my dad, and even like recovery aside, I think he's probably the most incredible person I've ever known. But it is really impressive, and it motivates me a lot to sort of like want to do good in the world and live authentically and honestly, and sort of do whatever I can to just contribute to the world in general. So that's been a really big gift.
Yeah. Yeah. My friends I know who are in recovery, I talked to a guy who was, it comes out like this. It's a guy who was in military service. He was like Air Force and he's retired now. And after quitting, he had like identity completely changed everything. He realized he had a drinking problem and he got sober. And like that was a whole journey. But he told me that in therapy, his therapist was like, you just have to get more comfortable telling your story. Because once you start telling your story over and over again, then you have like not power over your story, but then like you have the ability to tell your story. And like whenever you can talk about the darkest moments of your life comfortably, they lose some power over you. So it's this really fascinating comfort level with a part of your chapter, a part of what your existence has been. And it's a lot of bravery and a lot of courage.
Yeah, it really is. Actually, I noticed kind of leading up to today, I've been talking to a couple of friends about planning to come to talk to you. And even though like I am not an addict, I've actually like never had any inclination to use any substances. Occasionally I'll drink.
Yeah.
But that's not part of my identity personally.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about my dad, who's like a really successful, recovered person. Yeah. It's still really awkward to talk about. Like, it's a scary conversation to enter into, like one-on-one. But I've also noticed that every person I've brought it up to has their own story. Either it was a parent or friends or family, or even they themselves have experienced it. It's everywhere. And I think we just don't know because we're all so uncomfortable talking about it.
Yep. Well, I mean, because it's like in my opinion, from what I can tell, is you get an addiction of some sort because you needed a coping mechanism to life and what life has done to you. And then the coping mechanism becomes your entire life. And so like the reality is like we all have coping mechanisms. Some of us haven't gone off the deep end yet. So like it's a very relatable story or reality of like, hey, one drink easily becomes two drinks easily becomes three. And you look up and you've drank a 6-pack after work every day for a week. And you're like, oh, that's what your mind is able to tell you is normal. It can be very fascinating in some realms of life.
Yeah. Although I will have to say, Devon, a 6-pack, that's not alcoholic territory.
No, I understand. Yeah. But like, I think what the element of an alcoholic or someone who uses story is that I do think that's how it graduates. It's either people I feel like go from, I know people who are in recovery where they're like, I only knew how to do 8 drinks. I didn't know how to do one. I only know how to do something at 10, like 8 drinks and a
Mhm.
bottle of Jack. And I'm like, how are you still alive? That's
Yeah.
so much. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's stunning. And I think the other really insidious thing about it, with alcohol in particular, although I
Mhm.
think this is true for most substance addictions, is you don't know it's a problem until
Mhm.
it's already
Correct.
really a problem. It's not the kind of thing that you can typically like catch on your way down. You're like using
Mhm.
casually and just sort of being a social person, living life, and then all of a sudden you are in it and you can't find a way out.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. I remember one of my friends who's sober now. We went and watched like a basketball game together during March Madness, and I think I had a beer, and he had 3 cocktails in the time it took me to drink 1 beer. And then like a year later, when it was like, by the way, I got sober. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I just didn't know. Like, I was like, oh, you're drinking all. Like, my first thought was like, oh, are you
Hmm.
okay? Like, are you having a hard time? Are you having a bad day or something like that? I was like, no, I'm just having a drink or two, and I'm like, okay, that's not my normal, but maybe it's your normal. And then later it was like, yeah, I got sober. I was like, okay, I could see how that was yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's maybe even like the trickiest part about alcohol in particular is that it is so socially acceptable. Like
Yep.
people can use it right in front of you.
Hmm.
And it might seem a little odd. You might
Yeah.
think like, oh, you're indulging a little bit,
Yep.
but it takes a lot before it's like evidently problematic.
Hmm.
It's really easy to kind of get by.
Yeah, it is. Well, because people aren't like, yeah, I wasn't there whenever like I got home to his wife, and his wife was like, "Why have you drank so much?" You're like, I'm not there for those
Hmm.
moments, so I don't know. Like the other
Yeah.
side of the equation is like we've all gone out with friends who have taken the Uber home because they've drank too much. And then in my
Hmm.
head, and now I'm like, so when you got home, how'd your wife treat you? Was your wife like, God, not again? Like, was it cool? Was it not? And like,
Hmm.
there's so many quiet moments because it's so easy to hide drinking that
Yeah.
it's very easy to hide that you're doing it, but not hide. It's very hard to hide like the after effects of like being drunk, being hungover the next day. So there's a lot of intimate moments that can come from addiction.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I wanted to make sure to ask you was, how do you feel like your dad getting sober and being so comfortable with all this, how does that affect your belief like in humanity and people's ability to change? Because you've already kind of hinted at it a little bit that you believe in a lot, but like, how do you think that set you up to believe that like, hey, you might be in darkness now, but there's actually light that you can come into?
Yeah. I think I do have this like deeply ingrained sense of optimism
Hmm.
and belief that nothing is ever like the end, right? That there's always a next step. There's always an and.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from seeing people live through their darkest moments and
Hmm.
then seeing not just people recovering, but like the incredible lives that they're able to build and like
Yeah.
the joy that they're able to experience when they come out of it. It's
Hmm.
almost in some places seems like greater, like they have a greater capacity for joy and for sort of living a fulfilling life once they've experienced what it's like to not have that. So it is very encouraging. Now, it is also true that the addict, the alcoholic, has to choose it for themselves.
Hmm.
So it's sort of a double-edged sword. Like I know anyone can come through anything, but I also know there's nothing I or anyone else can do to
Yep.
make that happen for someone.
Correct.
They have to go after it on their own, and that is a really difficult choice to make. So it's mostly
Hmm.
optimistic, and then there's some pragmatism
Yeah.
there, which also I think is helpful because you can look at a situation and say like, "This is really difficult for me. I wish I could change it, but I know I can't. So
Correct.
I'm going
Yep.
to relieve myself of that responsibility."
Yep. I've had some friends when they get sober, they started with doing it for their wife and kids, and at some point
Hmm.
in time, that had to switch to getting sober for themselves. And I think it's like I forget if I remember talking to someone and we're like, whatever your motivation is to get sober. And like if you need to tweak the motivation, you might need to tweak it later on to stay sober. But like, yeah, if you know what, if thinking doing it for your wife and kids keeps you sober, keep doing it because getting sober is the goal. So, but I do think at some point in time you have to realize like, hey, I actually deserve a better version of myself for
Hmm.
myself. And but that's a lot. That takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of therapy. That takes a lot to get there.
It does. Yeah, you have to get to the place where you feel like you're worth it,
Yep.
which is again a disgusting lie that addiction will tell you
Correct. Yeah.
that you're not good enough, you don't deserve
Hmm.
anything better.
Yep.
I think that's part of what makes it so difficult to go after sobriety.
It is. Yep. Yep. And I also have an inherent belief in myself or a belief in humanity of like, do you exist? Then like there's parts of you that are worthy of love. Like, and you are
Hmm.
worth loving. And like, how do I, with the full knowledge that I'm not responsible for it, but I want you to believe that you're worthy of love. how do I communicate
Mhm.
to you in a way in which like you maybe start to open that door instead of open that door?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
It's real tricky. It's I'm glad there are people who do it for a living and are trained therapists and know more tools than
Yes.
I personally know.
Yes.
Try and think of final questions before wrapping up and you can actually get back to your day job. So since I normally talk to like so many dads who are getting sober and everything, what like message or advice would you give to them as someone who has been the child in that scenario? Like what advice would you give to them to be like, no, seriously, do this. This is so good for your family. Like, do you have any like thing in that realm that you can think of?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kicking myself because I didn't look up the statistics. I meant to, but I know that kids who grew up in homes with active addiction are like exponentially more likely to suffer from addiction themselves. It becomes a generational curse. But the incredible thing is, if parents are able to get sober in front of their kids, and it's not, you don't even have to talk about it explicitly. Like, I never
Yeah.
had the drug talk with my dad. He just did it.
Yeah.
And I was there while he did it.
Yeah.
Not only did he save his own life, and now he's like out in the world and he participates in ministry. He participates in all kinds of recovery programs.
That's great.
He also protected me because, like I mentioned before, I've never used anything other than alcohol,
Mhm.
even weed. And I know people will look at me sideways, and either they don't believe me
Mm-hmm.
or they think I'm a prude.
Yeah.
I just have no interest. I've
Yeah.
seen what can come of it.
Mhm.
I've seen the whole story play out, and I've just never cared to go down that road. So he protected me. He also protected my kids because now I'm not an active addict in front of them. So that's several generations of protection that he was able to give us just by taking care of himself. So there's a lot of hope there, and there's a lot of good and a
Yeah.
lot of power in doing the work.
Yeah. That's awesome. And like, I don't know, I think like, while I'm not this type of man, I think a lot of men are very focused and worried about their legacy and what legacy are they leaving
Mhm.
behind. And like, hey, if your legacy is like you corrected I think when you become a parent, you always try to tweak and be a little bit different or improve things with how you were raised. So if one of those is not repeating patterns of addiction and substance abuse, that changes family lines. So like,
Yes.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah, it is. It is like literally like, I love the moments in life where the answer is that simple. Like, hey, if you get sober,
Mhm.
you're not just making your life better, your kid's life better. You are like making generational changes. And like, I think every parent I know is like, how do I make a generational change while I've got this responsibility? Get
Yeah.
sober. See if you can do
Mhm.
it. It'd be great.
It's that easy.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very simple answer with a very complex plan to work it. So Cameron, to wrap up the episode, how I wrap up is ask every guest a series of 5 questions. So they're icebreakery. We'll see what your answers are. First question is, do you remember if you had any backup names for your daughters? Like, did you have anything you almost named them?
So with Scarlett, actually, it's a funny story.
Yeah.
Initially, her name was going to be Charlotte,
Mm,
but she was born a year or two after the royal, like Princess Charlotte was born.
yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, that's going to be a really popular name.
Hmm.
So we'll go with Scarlett instead because it's a little different. That ended up being one of the top 5 names for the year that she was born. So
Yeah.
by trying to avoid one of the more popular names, I ended up sticking her.
Yeah.
She's never the only Scarlett in the room.
My gosh.
Never.
I didn't realize. Well, you also, I feel like East Coast South is different than like middle of the South.
Yeah.
So I knew a couple of Scarletts in like Nashville and Alabama, but not that many, like only 1 or 2. I didn't know
But
it was
yeah,
that
they're
popular.
everywhere we go.
Okay.
Everywhere. And her middle name is Marie. And there's also a
Yeah.
lot of Scarlett
Yep.
Maries
Yep.
around
Yep.
here.
Yep. Marie's one of my favorite dumb jokes to do is to make up middle names for people if I'm jokingly mad at them. And Marie is usually the go-to, like Cameron Marie. And it's like, well, that is actually your real name.
Well, that is actually, yeah, my middle name. That's like 50% of the women in my family.
It's just
We all
like,
have the
yeah,
same middle.
throw out a Marie. You might be right.
Yeah.
What about for your second kid? Do you remember, or for your other kid? Do you remember any backup names for her?
I wouldn't say the backup name on the journey
Yes.
to get to Lily. And because we're in the South, middle names are a big deal. So
They are.
her name is Lily Page. And before Lily, I was thinking about Brooke.
Mm.
And then I said it out loud one day.
Lily
And
Brooke?
Brooke Page sounds a lot like book page. So I opted out of that. And
Yeah.
then it turns out my postpartum nurse, that was her name.
Wait,
She was
really?
like, oh, yeah, my middle name's Paige too. My name's Brooke. And I was like,
What?
no.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. That's fun. I love like we did for our first 2 kids, we did flower or plants, then a month, and then our last name. And for our middle child, we almost did April, but then her initials would have been Man. And we're like, we can't do that to her. We can't make her initials Man. She'd probably giggle about it and have fun about it. But then there'd be the one day where she's like, I hate that you did this to me. So
Yeah.
we did not.
Strong
go that route.
choice.
Strong
She'll
choice.
appreciate that.
She will later on. Next question. Do you have a favorite TV or movie mom?
I don't think so.
What about from like,
I should have an answer for
a
that.
book or something? What about like literary character? Just, character of a mom, or that comes to mind first.
So
yeah.
So I have one, but I'm hesitant to say it out loud because the franchise gets so much political hate. But you can choose to edit this out or not. I did grow up. Harry Potter books were really big in my family growing up. I actually I'm covered in symbolic tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a tribute to my stepdad because he used to read them to us all the
Cool.
time.
Yeah.
But Molly Weasley.
Yeah. Molly Weasley's a great answer. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like the archetype, right? For the mom everyone wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, trust me, I'll keep it in. Molly Weasley has been an answer. It is also Bill Cosby's been an answer where someone's like, I can't say Bill Cosby, but like for a TV dad, Bill Cosby was a great dad until we realized he wasn't a great person. So we're separating art from person in this episode.
I love it.
Cameron.
I love it. Excellent.
Yeah, Molly Weasley has like all these characteristics of like being warm. She's like everyone's mom. She's like willing to be mom to like everyone. And like, that's cool. Respect.
Yeah, she's also like delightfully irreverent, which I think you have to be, right? Like you have to have a sense of humor and you have to be a little bit stubborn as a mom. So I do. I love that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Next question. What's your replacement curse word? What do you say instead of the curse word? Or do you just curse? Which, so you know, is the most common answer.
I do not curse. Although my kids hear it all the time and we have like a whole conversation about that. But I often go with fluff.
Oh, fluffin'. Fluffin's
fluff.
Good.
Yeah. Or I'll just say F. I'll just say, what the F?
What the F?
Yeah. Yes, with the really thick Virginia accent too. Yeah, that's my go-to.
Okay. I think fluffin' is fun. Also to be like, oh, this fluffin' sucks. And they're like, what'd you say? And you're like, talking about marshmallows. What do you think I'm talking about? Just getting some fluff in here. Next question. What is like your favorite activity or toy to do with your daughters?
We have a lot. I think though my favorite thing with both of them since they were little is actually playing in the rain.
Yeah.
They love it. They love a puddle. We usually go out in like full rain gear and then end up losing all of it by the time, we're done. And they're like drenched from head to toe. They love getting muddy. And I don't actually care for getting rained on, but I love watching them play in it so much that like I'll drop everything to go outside and play in the rain with them.
Okay. That one, I'm definitely the parent who's like, no, now your pants are wet. Now they're like, it's raining here today. And my son was like jumping in the puddles. And like, you can do that. I didn't put backup pants in your backpack because I didn't think you were going to jump in a puddle. So that, as long as I have like the backup stuff for the wetness and the mess, then I'm good. But whenever I can just play out like they're going to cry and scream because their pants are wet, then I'm like, well, I don't have a solution for this. And now I feel like a bad parent. So just don't jump in the rain.
Yeah, I mean, it's contextually dependent. Like we don't jump in puddles on the way into school. On the way home, fine.
Okay,
yeah, but not on the way into school.
Okay, that's good. I'm just like, you've got to have some, because it is the moment where the 4-year-old jumps in the puddle and then like, why is everything wet? And you're like, you've jumped in a fluffing puddle. Yeah. And then you're problem solving. And then you're driving back and you're like, just don't jump in the puddle. And then you're like, you're killing whimsy, Devon. Stop it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last question for you. What is your least favorite kids show or movie?
Everyone says Caillou, so I'm not going to
don't say
that.
Caillou. Go a different one.
But I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna say all of these YouTube kid shows
Yeah.
that are actually like parents filming their kids pretending to play.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, my kids are obsessed with it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why are you watching someone play when you could actually be playing?
Mm-hmm.
Two, I think it's gross when people
Yeah.
take advantage of their kids that way.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's really gross. And three, it's also just grating to watch.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
understand
bad
it. I can't.
content.
Yeah, it's awful. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
So as someone who does a parenting podcast, I know you've got Elder Emo Mom in your thing. Like I also rarely use my kids in any of my videos or any of my content because it creates like a dissonance inside myself where I'm like, this feels wrong to do. Like I feel like you rarely post anything with your kids in it, but clearly being a parent is part of like who you are. So I'm with you. Just like every once in a while, but like for the most part, no, I don't like doing that to them.
Yeah, no, I do have a hard rule against putting their faces on the public internet. I'll share with like, close friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes fun moments. But yeah, I can't get behind putting my kids on the internet, particularly for personal gain.
Correct.
But it's just, we know so much now about what happens when you put yourself on the internet. And I'm
good.
I can't get my head around like being okay with that.
I can't either. Clearly some people can, and I do my best just not to judge them as I am very much judging them at the same time. Yeah, pretty much.
Some people deserve to be judged.
That's right. And then last thing for you is just like moment for self-promotion. If we want to follow like your Instagram, TikTok, anything like that, do some self-promotion.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm Your Elder Emo Mom on TikTok and Instagram, but there's a period in between each word because I'm difficult and I love punctuation. Yeah, and I love to talk about mostly new music, a little bit of old music, and I'm going to be going to Warped Tour DC soon.
Yeah.
We'll be covering that on assignment for NAPNet, which is
so cool.
incredible.
Yeah.
So strongly encourage people to follow along for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it will be. Hey, Cameron, thank you for taking the time to do an episode with me. I really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Devon.
Perfect. Thanks, Cameron. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Imperfect Dads Podcast. And make sure to give us 5 stars wherever you listen to us. Music, editing, and production is all done by me. Make sure to tune in on Mondays and most Thursdays for new episodes. This podcast is part of the Never a Face Network. Make sure to go to neverafacenetwork.com to learn more about them.